Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to session 7 of Human Resource Management course. I'm your instructor, Dr. Shikha and Khera, faculty at Delhi School of Management, Delhi Technological University, Delhi. Students, we have been discussing about various sub-functions of human resource management past 5 to 6 sessions. In this session, we'll move forward. If you remember, in the last session, we have already recruited and selected the employee to the organization. We finally concluded by the background check and medical examination, and we welcomed them to the organization. While they are onboarding in the organization and they start working here, there are certain things to be told to them before they dash into the job. That can be the culture of organization, functioning of organization, the role they have to play, the work they have to work, and the clients they have to deal with. All this information along with any personal benefits that the employees will get, any concepts related to their career planning and growth in the organization. All these things have to be told to them, unless otherwise they will feel themselves as lost in the organization ocean. So in order to deal with all this, the newly recruited and selected employees are then administered to the initial training programs. And in this session, we'll focus on the introductory training, which is called as orientation and placement of the organizational new members, along with the training in detail, how they are administered to training even after the first appraisal or second appraisal, whenever it is required, or the organization senior members feel it deemed fit for them. So this session will be dedicated on the training session of the employees. Let us proceed, but before that you will see where we have actually reached. In the previous sessions, I told you that we'll be discussing on recruitment, de-recruitment, and we did selection as well. Here we have identified and selected a competent employee. Now we are moving ahead with these two concepts, that is orientation and training. These are the two topics I shall be dealing in today's session. By orientation and training, the employees adapt and they are up to date with the skills and knowledge required for organizational work. So what happens when the newly recruited employee joins the organization? We have to introduce them to the place they are placed at, and we have to orient them about organizational functioning. This process of placing them and orienting them is called as orientation and placement, also referred to as induction training. So do you want yourself to be like this when you are into your first job? And I am sure that none of you would like to have such kind of derailment when you are into your job. According to monster.com, the percentage of external hires are no longer with their organization after 2 years. Can you guess a number? It's approximately 30% of people leave the job after 2 years of their joining. Isn't that something alarming? Doesn't that call for some discussions at organization level? Now, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics, 2 generations ago, the average person held 6 jobs in their lifetime. And do you know what is the average today? It's 11 plus. So, job hopping is something which has become a trend in today's time. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics, what percentage of a person's salary does it cost to replace them? 25%, such a huge cost. So, students, with the help of statistics, I'm sure you have understood how much challenging it is for any organization to hold the talent, first to recruit the talent, then to hold the talent. Otherwise, the organization will have huge financial losses and human capital losses as well. So what is to be emphasized upon? It is said that providing true early career support. True early career support is the orientation. stands today as the single most important thing firms can do to energize new hires and gain their long-term loyalty and enthusiasm. Students, these are the two terms which are continuously required by all organizations at any level, be it an employee who joins at a lower level or an employee who joins at a higher level. Always an organization wants the sincerity, loyalty, developed trust and enthusiasm with the workers. And how that can be achieved? One of the great procedures to achieve the same is early career support, that is induction. So welcome aboard to the new joinees or newbies in the organization. In organizations, why onboarding programs fail, why the induction is not that appropriate, that the new joinees have any interest in understanding the concepts there. Because generally, no one is directly responsible in organization to conduct the orientation program. It is seen as majoritarily a checklist or an orientation paperwork. So it becomes a normal paperwork shuffle every year, limited to management interest and involvement, unless otherwise the top management is interested and is involved in the work. The descendant workers, the workers at lower level or middle level, will not be motivated to have high quality work done on that aspect. So these are the prominent reasons why induction program fails in many organizations. And finally, whatever material is introduced during the orientation program, it is not reinforced later. Thus, people tend to forget what is being told to them during the orientation training. So here suggestions are for you, my budding managers, that when you become managers, what kind of onboarding you should plan for your newbies. Onboarding rule 1 is live up to recruiting cycle promises. So whatever you promised to your newbies, to the new joinees, you must fulfill all the promises. Otherwise, they will lose trust and they will have a lack of trust in the organization, and this can prompt them to leave the job. So every business must understand the shocking amount of turnover in today's time. Here I am not talking about the financial turnover, I am talking about the employee turnover, and it is about entitled new hires. It's about disengaged new hires. It's a new concept which you have to work upon. That is, even if you hire someone who is a star performer, but you do not engage them properly, they feel bored with the job and thus they tend to leave. The carrot of having a job isn't enough anymore. Employees want to be happy at work, realize a great future and feel connected to something very big. And this feeling of connection of something very big is the driving force that they keep working towards achieving something great. So give new hires the tools and resources to succeed, but do not hold their hands. So here the suggestion is that whenever new joinees are there, expose them to various contents related to the organization, but do not try to be a kind of constant support to their work. Give them the work, delegate on to them, let them decide, come up with some failures. You should be there to handle the failures rather than having a spoon-feeding behavior. By that, they won't be able to develop their critical analytical skills or creative skills in decision making. Now, how you can better help the newbies manage through their first. All new arrivals at the organization, they have first administrative problem where they do not even know how to put forth their certain applications or paperwork. You must help on the job mistake that they do for the first time, which is inevitable. Every new joinee will be doing so. They may have personality conflict in the organization with other personalities or maybe with you, but try to handle that amicably. They may have some first win where they succeeded in some assignment and that needs a celebration, which will give them good motivation. First time receiving negative feedback or constructive criticism has to be told to them that is the part of the job and they must not feel offended about it. Rather, they should take it as a step for improvement. First, public recognition or failure to be recognized at the organization or departmental level to give them confidence and encourage them to move further for further such engagements. First time new hire doesn't know the answer of certain questions or certain challenges posed to them, then as a mentor, you are supposed to help them in seeking such solutions. First, company-sponsored social event where they need to know the protocols, how to handle that social event. First time speaking up at the meeting, they may not follow up with the appropriate norms that need a guidance. First presentation at the meeting definitely needs some support by the mentors, and first client visit is where a little bit of hand-holding will be needed, as they will be going through the brochures of the company which they have to explain to the client. Thus the mentors or senior members can play a key role there to give them boost in their encouragement and confidence. Onboarding rule 2 says that commit for a full year at least. So that means that if you have committed or if you have initiated the orientation training to the new members, it is good to be with them for 1 year cycle so that they go through each and every aspect of organizational functioning throughout the year, and now they are in a stable position to understand organizational functioning. Thus, once they are stable to understand the organizational functioning, then only they can give back to the organization in an effective manner. So this rule 2 is what's the first thing that comes in the mind when I say orientation to you students. Yeah, this is another aspect that I want to highlight to you with rule 2, that whenever we administer an orientation program, generally it looks like this. People have a perception that it is going to be very boring and probably we will feel drowsy during the session. But for most new hires, it is like this. What exactly is this? What you can understand out of this image? This is flow of information which is too heavy to digest. So thus, when too much of information is given to the new hires in the very first go during the orientation, it becomes very difficult for them to absorb all the information, learn all the things about the organizational working and reflect upon that. So these should not be the scenarios in orientation program. Orientation program should be planned very technically so that these issues don't crop up. So it is a suggestion. Rule number 2 says slow down the orientation process. Do not rush to have a 1 day or 3 day orientation program. Rather take good time of 2 weeks or 3 weeks where the new individuals who have joined the organization get into the system and get oriented. Suggestion here is focus on bite-sized learning in certain 3 areas. So bite-sized learning is the small learning that you can give to your employees. So the first area is give them learning in the technical field they have to work in. Talk to them about the cultural values within the organization and talk about the social life of people working in the organization. Organization which works as a social system, how it performs. There is information about Cisco's onboarding program which is called as Fast Start. So they have given a terminology to it, and each new hire receives a peer sponsor or a buddy as well as access to this online network of familiar faces. So by having this buddy mentorship program, what is the output is that every individual new joinee is very comfortable and he has a godfather or a mentor here in the organization who can guide him for any problem he faces. The problems can be very simpler, that where is the bank to deposit their checks from, ranging from this to how to handle a tricky client. All such problems can be handled if a genuine buddy is associated to the members. Moving forward, onboarding rule 3 says that set written measurable goals. When we talk about written and measurable goals, what is the benefit of it? Benefit is that the direction to the employee is very clear and quantifiable measurement is also very clear. So the employee knows that they have to introduce a new baby product and the timeline is 6 months. The budget allocated is X amount. Thus, and the percentage return which is expected is this much in the investment. So with these written clear goals, the employees, they get a self-direction and thus less of role ambiguity and role clarity is there. With less role ambiguity and high role clarity, employees perform better. So top performers like to know where they are going. Those who are highly talented, they definitely want to know that with all this written measurable goals, how they are performing. So a good system of performance appraisal is expected. This performance appraisal we shall be discussing in the future sessions in detail. Then comes further discussion on the definition of orientation program. So orientation is a planned introduction of new employees to their jobs, to their co-workers and the organization at large. I think by now you have understood what is onboarding, induction or orientation. All three names are interchangeably used by different organizations. Purpose of orientation is to make employees comfortable. Now comfortable not to the extent that they become callous and lazy, but comfortable to the extent that they understand the functioning and they perform better. It also helps in reduce their anxiety with respect to organizational politics and power and administrative decisions. It helps to adjust themselves to the new environment and provides them information about the job. Adjusting to the new environment is highly important. Otherwise, if they don't feel connected to the place, connected to the organization, connected to the job they are doing, they cannot perform effectively at all. If we wish to have high efficiency and high effectiveness from the job, that cultural adjustment to the place is very important. Even a bit of emotional connect with the organization will do wonders. Now we shall talk something about different types of orientation programs. So what are different types of orientation programs? We have first formal and informal orientation program. Under the formal orientation program, there are written down documentation and in which the role of hierarchy, the members, time, place, everything is decided, wherein the new joinees attend those seminars or conferences or workshops to understand organizational pattern. While in informal, during the various breaks, say for example tea break, coffee break, lunch break, when new members join with the old members, or you can say the senior members in the organization, during the chit chat over lunch, that becomes a networking lunch and they learn about each other. And during that learnings, many information which is not the explicit knowledge but a tacit knowledge of the old employee is passed on to the new employee. This tacit knowledge works wonders because through this new employees get to know about the organizational phase which is not explicitly written anywhere in the documents. Vis-a-vis, the formal orientation is all about the explicit written down communication to the employees. So this was about formal and informal orientation. And the second is individual versus collective orientation. So under individual orientation, where generally it is done for the senior management people, those who join senior management roles, they are individually oriented by the top management about their role and other processes. The collective orientation is generally for middle and lower middle level employees or first level workers, first line workers. For them, collective program is planned and a schedule is made and thus the orientation is given. Say orientation has to be given about the accounts department, about administrative department, about their own division where they are working. All such things are done collectively under collective orientation. The third category of orientation is serial versus disjunctive orientation. Serial orientation means that a senior employee is being provided to the new employee and he becomes his mentor while the orientation is going on. Under this, the new employee has full access to the senior employees with regard to any information if they wish to know. While opposite to serial orientation is disjunctive orientation. Under disjunctive orientation, there is no mentor associated with the new employee. The new employee explores himself the organizational functionings and try to learn them. Then we have fourth type of orientation program, that is investiture and divestiture. Under the investiture program, the new employee is given the task for which he has been selected. So he brings the usefulness to the table or to the organization. So whatever he is being selected for, the same skill is used to give them for task. While in divestiture, the employee comes up or is selected because he is talented, but some amount of training needs to be given to him so that he becomes well versed with the job that he has to do. So this additional training is given in divestiture, while in investiture orientation, no training is given, only information is given to the employee and he is dashed into the job. So we have tried to understand 4 different types of orientation programs. Let's learn different stages of the formal program of orientation. Under the stages of orientation, first we introduce to the company, then specific orientation about the department and the job, and then follow-up meeting so that if the new employee has any query, that can be resolved, or if he has forgotten anything, that can be told to him properly. Under formal orientation program, it runs parallelly. So at 2 levels. Level 1 is by HR representative. Level 2 is by the supervisor concerned where the person has to perform the job. Let's start with the supervisory role. So the supervisor orients the employee about specific job location and duties that he has to perform, while the HR representative orients the employee about organizational issues and about the employee benefits that he will get being part of the organization. But both the programs are planned in a manner that they reduce the anxiety, and these are called as special anxiety reduction seminars. And once the employee undergoes these and becomes more comfortable in the organization, he is then placed into the job and work is assigned to him. The topics which are generally covered include organizational issues, employee benefits, introduction and job duties. Requisite of an effective orientation program. What are the prerequisites? We can say that, or the requirements for an effective program of orientation. We have to first prepare for new employees. So thus we need to determine how to present the information and determine the information new employees want to know, and then complete the paperwork. So this is also called as knowing your audience. So when you know your audience well, you prepare the documents as per their requirements, what they want to know and what they should know. Both the things are to be covered. Then comes evaluation of orientation program. So under the evaluation of orientation program, we have to complete a questionnaire. A questionnaire is prepared so that we can ask questions from the new employees, suggestions from the employees to know their opinion, that is in the form of a feedback, and group discussion sessions for having some kind of deliberations on certain issues which need to be taken up for resolution. Let us see, are there any problems with the orientation program? Yes, we have already discussed about too much of information is given, overload with the forms to complete. So this is the paperwork which should be avoided when it comes to the orientation. Otherwise, the new employees will be more interested in filling the papers and will not be interested in actually gaining the information about the organization. Giving very less or more work, that discourages them. So that means appropriate engagement is required, or we can call it as optimum engagement of employees is required with respect to the work given to them. They are forced to fill the gaps, which is very challenging. If they are forced to fill the gap, they won't do justice to their work. Thrown into action too soon makes mistakes, can damage the company. So if we are not giving them any time or chance to actually adjust to the environment, then in that case we are making a damage to the company altogether. May develop wrong perception about the organization, and with this there are a lot of chances that may lead to voluntary resignations, where we talked about that people are into job hopping nowadays a lot. Why this job hopping is taking place? Because they feel that they are putting into action too soon, and thus they are developing the wrong perception about the organization. So students, this is about the orientation part, where they have been exposed to what kind of organization they have joined and what they have to work. The next part of orientation is about the placement aspect. Let us study about the placement, what exactly the placement is, and how the employees are placed into the job. Placement refers to the allocation of people to the job. So here we are allocating them, and it includes initial assignment of new employees, also assignment of promotion, transfer or demotion of present employees. So here you can see that many decisions are taken at the same time when the employees are placed. Decisions like whether they will be, once they are promoted, what new job role they have to take, transfer to different unit or plant, what kind of new job or additional job they have to work for. There are certain placement problems which employees face. That is, it should look at the individual and not at the job, because we are placing the individual. So we must see to it that does the individual require any help while he is getting placed or not. The individual does not work independent, and we must be careful while placing the individual well. So we have to also talk about which team he is joining, and is he comfortably placed with respect to interpersonal relations in the team. So this is one great takeaway, that make way for the new organizational members. It is important. If we do not give them proper placement, there will be high amount of role ambiguity. So organizational approaches for placement is new way of allowing them to achieve self-fulfillment, new mode of getting new men involved, and new method of leading them. Organization has to see leadership, has to give them some new mode so that they work, and they should have self-fulfillment. If the placement process is observing all the three things, they are self-motivated, they are getting the new modes, they have right leadership, then placement will be effective. The challenges which are faced by the new men is never so great. Corporate management should know to adjust the personal and professional requirement of the individuals. So here the question arises that in the organization, why training and development is required once we have placed the employee. So once the employee is oriented also, the employee is placed also at the place, now he starts his work. Whenever we start a work, what do you think? Are we always well versed with the work? Do we know the job appropriately and perfectly? We don't make any mistakes in the job? I am sure students, you will agree with me that no, that is not the scenario. Many a times we are hardly aware about the job and we make a lot of mistakes. Or even if we perform, that performance is not up to a standardized mark. We perform very poorly. In all these scenarios, a good organization thinks about that how we can help our employees to improve their work performance, which eventually will improve the organizational performance. So the concept which comes here is giving them or imparting them training and developing their concepts. So with the help of training and development conceptual phenomena, organizations have transformed general employees who were poor performers into star performers in the organization. By this, the organization adds on many values to it, like it develops the commitment of the employee. Employee feels very appreciated and happy that I am being taken care by the organization. They have not thrown me out. Second, the organization maintains the recruitment cost, because otherwise if organization retrenches the employee or lays them off, then the organization has to face a lot of financial crunch towards it. So let us now talk and have a focus towards the training and development aspect of HR fundamental. So introduction about the training is need for organizations to build and sustain competencies that would provide them with competitive advantage. This is so important. Every organization has to survive in a fierce competition in today's time. And what is the asset of the other organization or the competitive organization? Primarily, it is the human resource along with the technology that they are using. So, need of today's hour is to impart right kind of training so that we are ahead of our competitor and we have high above average returns through our competitive advantage. So growth-oriented organizations, they value training as a response to changing environment and they take it as an investment rather than as a liability. It helps in training and development. It helps in development of one's personality, sharpens skills, enhances effectiveness. In the today's era of knowledge, human assets are valued very highly. So thus, the organization which are growth oriented, they do invest in human resources. Along with this, if the organization has a focus on continuous learning, it will eventually lead to human development. So thus, continuous learning needs to be focused upon. It is also important and integral part of organizational renewal process. Thus, T&D is an important aspect. Students, let us now differentiate between the two terms training and development. Training focuses on specific job knowledge and skill that is to be applied in short run, while development focuses on broad knowledge and insights that may be required for adaptation to environmental demands in future. So you can understand here, it involves more of a vision and it involves more of completion or execution of objectives. So what is the importance of concept of training? It is a response to technological changes which affect the job requirement. It responds to organizational restructuring, then also training is required. So that means when technology changes, we go for training. When we go for restructuring of organization, we go for training. What is restructuring, students? Restructuring means that we are either decreasing some levels in the organization, we have organizational hierarchy and we are decreasing some levels from that, or we are adding on new levels, we are making the structure of organization more flatter than a vertical structure. So, or we are making up expansion because of which we are opening new plants, or we are reducing some plants. So all these are part of restructuring of the organization, and when the organization is restructured, we generally have to give training for the new structure to the organizational employees. Training helps in adapt to increased diversity of the workforce. In today's time, because of narrowing of we can say the world, because globe is becoming one single village. So diversity is inevitable. At every place, human diversity is seen. Training helps to increase the adaptability towards the diversity. Support career development of the employees, because if employees have to be trained, say they are at middle level and they have to reach to the next level. So the gap between the two lies in probably some technical skill. So here, if the technical skill training is given at this level, then probably the employee becomes eligible to take up the next level in the hierarchy. Fulfill employee need for growth. So once career development is done, growth eventually takes place. Functions of a training program. Training program is meant to give knowledge, change in the attitude, which is through behavioral training, helping to put theory into practice, which they have learnt in their colleges, helps to evaluate abilities and competencies, who is better than whom, enhances problem solving and decision making abilities, and improves the performance. So this is the ultimate goal of the organization, to improve individual performance, which eventually will improve the organizational performance. Now, what are the parameters on which the success of training program depends upon? Success of training program depends upon intention to learn from the participant. If the participant is motivated to learn, then only the trainer will be enthusiastic to deliver. Reinforcement provided to the learner, that will, if reinforcement is given, for example, something is taught and after that a test is also given, that reinforces what is being taught in the training program. It will help provide learner to have better memorizing or better memory of the concept. Developing the potential from an individual's point of view and active participation of the trainee. Providing opportunities for practice also and transfer of learning to take place from training program. Now, transfer of learning. What does transfer of learning mean? Transfer of learning means that whatever is being taught to the employee, he uses that information and completes his job. So when he uses his information, that means the transfer of training has taken place from the brain of the trainer to the brain of the trainee. Students, there is a gap concept which helps us to find out the training need in the organization. Through gap, we identify the training need. What is the gap concept? Here you can see we have a timeline and we have a performance observance. And we see that expected timeline and performance graph is this, while the actual timeline and performance curve is different. So there is a gap between the two. This gap helps to identify the training need. So example is, if the expected outcome was 1000 cars and actual cars which were made were 800, so the gap is 200. Now the point to deliberate upon is that why this gap occur? Why did this gap occur? There can be reasons for it. Reasons can be the organization did not have enough resources. If that is the reason, then there is no requirement for training. The organization has poor machines, then also there is no requirement for training. They need to change the machines. But if at all the reason was poor staff skills, there were machines, there were resources, but the staff was not competent enough to handle that, then arises the need for training. This is called as gap concept. So as the training expert, we must analyze the situation to determine if expected results are too high. We have to see this also. Target is achievable or not. 1000 cars, easy or difficult in the given resources. Is training the only way to make it happen? So this we have to answer as an expert, yes. If you find out that it was poor staff skill, so you can say yes, training is mandatory. After that, we can achieve the target because this target is achievable. Or are there other factors also to think about? So here I have an exercise for you people. Let us discuss this exercise. You people can respond in a paper or on a piece of paper to this and just see have you understood the concept or not. Imagine you are the managing director of a full service restaurant. One day you receive a complaint letter from a guest reporting he or she was not satisfied with the follow-up regarding their criticism of being overcharged in one of your restaurants. So have you understood the problem? The client was overcharged. They lodged a complaint, but they did not get any response. So why was the complaint made, and is there a training need required? And to whom the training to could be given? As we can see from this case, the problem is not that they were overcharged. At this time, they are in a trouble. The client is troubled because client feels that I was not given response to my complaint. So that means we have to see who is at the response desk, whether the person received the complaint, and why the person has not responded back. Do we need to give some training to the concerned individual at that place? After gap concept, we have another concept which is ask concept. Now, as the gap concept, training is simply a means to use activities to fill the gaps of performance between the actual results and expected result. But this gap can be separated into three main themes. gap in attitude, gap in skill, or gap in knowledge? Let's understand. So the second exercise is rank ask by difficulty to develop in people. There are 3 levels: easy, moderately difficult, and most difficult. And there are 3 concepts that you have to assign to it. So what would you like to assign? Attitude, is it easy to develop, moderate to develop, or most difficult to develop? Same goes for other 2 also. Any guesses, students? Which one is the most difficult? Attitude is the most difficult to develop. Skills are moderately difficult to develop, and knowledge is the most easy to develop in people. So keeping in mind, we should take care of how to develop these concepts. Now, when we are imparting training, essentially we are making people learn. But will people learn effectively? They will learn effectively if we follow these 5 principles. Thus, as a result, they can have high learnings out of training programs. So what are the 5 principles of learning? First is participation. Involves trainees and learn by doing. So whenever training is being given, the participation of the members should be properly engaged there. Second is reinforcement or repetition. Repeat the ideas and concept for the people to learn. This will help them retain that in their mind. Third is relevance. Learn better when material is meaningful and related. So relevance of material to the job is very much required. If they have to do job of a carpenter and you are teaching them how to make electric connection, there is no point. So relevant of the training with the job is highly essential. Transference to real world using simulations. So you have to teach them how to transfer the knowledge that they gain during the training program to the real world problems, and this knowledge can be utilized to resolve the common issues at the functional level of organization. And finally, we must have a feedback, ask for it and adjust training method to the audience. Audience will give a feedback about the trainer and the training methodology and the learning that they have acquired. So here, participation, repetition, relevance, transference, and feedback. Now there is a systematic approach to training. So key concepts in preparing a training program: before you train and develop people, identify what they must know, they should know, and would be nice for them to know. So what is they must know before they can perform the job? This is the minimum information, or you can say most important information that they must have in their mind. They should know while they are performing the job so that they improve the performance, but it is not mandatory. Would be nice for them to know. It is not essential, but it is desirable, but not necessary to perform the duties. So this is a systematic approach to training when we design a training program, that they must know certain things, they should know certain things, and this is nice for them to know certain things. So the process which we follow in training program, we basically first identify the need for training that we shall be discussing soon. So we first identify, is there a need for training? And then we move on to discuss or think what are the strategic goals of the organization. We wish to match this need with the goal. What tasks must be completed to achieve these goals? So we are not talking about what jobs to be done. In order to do these jobs, what behaviors are necessary on the part of the employees. So what behaviors employees do? See the connect, students. Here we are identifying the goals, then we are identifying the tasks to complete the goals, then we are identifying the behaviors to complete the task, and what deficiencies, if any, does job holder have in terms of skill, knowledge, ability and behavior, which will help us find out the need for training, whether there is a need for skill training, knowledge training, ability training or behavior training. So this is a model of training process which has 3 stages: assessment stage, training stage and evaluation stage. Under assessment stage, what we are assessing? We are assessing the need for training. This is called as at 3 levels: organizational need assessment, task need assessment, and development of training objectives, also individual need objectives, assessment, development of criteria for training evaluation. Training stage is actually training is given, design and selection of procedure for training, and evaluation is measuring the training results, whether the new joinees have or the old people who got the training have understood the outcome of the training or not. Compare the result to the criteria, and the feedback will enable us to know whether this training assessment was properly done or not. Reasons to consider conducting internal need analysis. Now, need analysis is the first stage, as I told you in the previous slide. This is the need analysis or the assessment stage. So, reasons to consider conducting an internal need analysis is employee obsolescence or outdatedness. As we know that many people work in organization for decades, so they completed their education very long back. Now they may not be abreast with the latest technology or functioning or methodologies, so that makes their skill obsolete or redundant. In order to avoid that or overcome that problem, a training need analysis is done. Here we try to find out the technical, cultural and new system computerization requirements. Second, training is required to achieve the career plateaus, that is need for educational and training programs for growth. And third is to reduce employee turnover. Development plan for new employees is required so that they stay in organization and they do not leave. This is for career growth. So systems approach to T&D is need assessment, design and delivery of T&D, and evaluation. Let us discuss these three stages one after the other. Under the need assessment, organizational analysis, person analysis, and task analysis is carried out. The organizational analysis, as we have already seen in the graphic, now I am discussing the detail. I am going back to the graphic to make you understand the connect. This is the point I am discussing in detail: the organizational need analysis, task analysis, and individual analysis, which comes under the phase 1 of the systems approach to T&D. So here it is. Organizational analysis is, here we examine system-wide factors that affect the transfer of newly acquired skills to the workplace. So at organization level, what skills can be transferred to the job? At the person analysis, who needs what training? And at the task analysis, it provides statement of activities and work operation performed on the job. Do we need to change something in the task which is assigned? So at organizational level, what kind of trainings can be given? On sales and operating plans, productivity, technology change, organizational restructuring, change in workforce, etc. At job level, or what we also called as task level, job and task analysis is done, key result areas, success areas are seen, review procedural and technical manuals are seen, and then we go for designing of a training program. And third is at individual level, determine who needs training and what kind. So through the help of tests, prior training experience, performance review and career assessment, we get to know who requires training and who is fit enough to move to the next level, just like that. So under the need assessment, we have done task, organizational and individual analysis. Now let us see how we do it. How need assessment is done. Advisory committees, assessment centers, attitude survey, group discussion, questionnaire, skill set. These are the modes of need assessment. Then comes in the second phase, design and delivery of training and development. Training design principles of learning includes, we try to find out the motivation level of employees to attend the training program, participation, how many people, feedback of previous training, organizational status, repetition, application, training, delivery, on the job, away from the job, and T&D plan and implementation. These are required to be part of design and delivery. And then finally in evaluation, we talk about levels of evaluation, how did participants react, how much they learned, was there any behavior change, and what are the organization goals were affected or not. Let's have some quick insight into training methods on the job and off the job. So on the job training methods are job instruction training, where when the person is working, he is instructed how to do the job. Vestibule training. Vestibule is a replica of the real-time gadget that is to be worked upon. So when a real-time gadget is made, the vestibule of that gadget is lookalike, doesn't function exactly the same, but has all the necessary technicalities on which, if trained, the person can operate the real gadget as well. So that becomes a vestibule training, training by immediate supervisor, coaching or on-the-job simulation exercises. Apprenticeship is again an on-the-job training method where the ITIs are given exposure to the work to be done, and job rotation is also one of the training methods. Under job rotation, the employee is given placement at different departments. When he is placed at different departments, there are multiple benefits. First, it breaks the monotony of the job. Second, he gets information about different jobs. Third, when there is no person at a particular job, this one can be deputed for a couple of days until the new person joins at that level. So job rotation is a training also, and a concept which helps the organization to keep moving despite during the times when employees are not available. Then after on-the-job methods we have off-the-job methods, which include lecture method, which is right now going on. I am lecturing to you, so that is off-the-job training method. Conferences, in which we hear the experts, case studies where we learn from the real-time cases or business scenarios, role plays where we enact as a part of organization and try to learn how it feels when we put ourselves in the shoes of other people. Programmed instruction trainings are computerized trainings wherein you perform one task, one activity, the computer guides you to move further to perform the second task, third task, and this is how you learn the complete task. And then comes the T group and sensitivity training, which is one of the most beautiful trainings ever. In T group or sensitivity training, this is generally done to unwind the members of team members who are working on a particular project for quite long. And during this working, they might have developed certain grudges about each other. So what happens? An expert trainer is assigned to it. The group or the team is taken to some off-site location. Under this off-site location, one of the famous locations is Rishikesh, where the team is generally taken by many corporates for river rafting. During this activity and after that activity, team building is done through the trainer. Under sensitivity training, the trainer will ask people, all the team members, to sit in a particular room, and one by one, the trainer is trained enough to extract information from the members. Each member is supposed to talk about any grudge or bad feelings they have for the other members in the group. While they are going and saying so, they outburst with all the emotions they have for the other individual in the team. And in the end, the team member concludes by saying that now you are all relieved from the pressure and tension that you had regarding each other and interpersonal relations. Now you become friends again and restart the teamwork. By doing this activity and having a 2 to 3 day recreation, the team joins hands again. It reduces a lot of emotional turbulences which was there with respect to other team members, between the group members and team members, and this is how this T group sensitivity helps in resolving the interpersonal issues. So students, we have discussed about the sensitivity training. Let us now move towards understanding some pros and cons of various instruction methods. So first is classroom instruction. Under classroom instruction, it is very efficient in dissemination of large volume of information, can explain theories well, and provides opportunity for discussion. But the negative side of it is that learner doesn't have control of pace of the content because he is not learning individually. It does not consider individual differences, which is again a challenge because different people may have different speeds, limited practice, and limited feedback of the classroom instruction. Then comes the next, that is when you learn or get training from video and film. Here the positivity is it provides realism, realistic to life, quite interesting. You can allow scheduling and flexibility whenever you wish to see, and allows distribution to multiple sites, that is broad coverage. On the other hand, it does not consider individual differences like the previous one, again limited practice, limited feedback and limited transfer to job. So by this, we are just trying to find out which instruction method will be most appropriate in what conditions. Like computer instruction is efficient, though it allows scheduling and flexibility. It considers individual differences also. Practice session is also good. Learner control is also there, and immediate feedback can be given when it is computer assisted. But limited knowledge about theories and principles, hardly any discussion, rather no discussion. Transfer depends on whether the computer worked appropriately or not, and high development cost, because otherwise if you have to make such things it will be quite costly. So these are limitations. As I have explained you already, the vestibule. So vestibule has certain positives like it is active practices and realism. It is quite close to reality, high transfer to job, but and also allows exposure to hazardous events, lowers trainee stress. On the other hand, negatives can be it cannot cover all job aspects because vestibule cannot be exactly working like how the actual gadget works. Limited number of trainees are there. It can be very expensive. For example, for aircraft simulations and virtual reality simulators, they are very costly. When it comes to on-the-job methods, they are very actively participating, realistic, immediate feedback, very high motivation and high transfer to job, and low training cost because person is doing the job also and learning simultaneously. But by doing so, they are disrupting the operations of the job. So the work pattern is disturbed in organization, may damage the equipment because the person is not aware of how to work on it, inconsistent across the department, inadequate focus on underlying principles, and lack of systematic feedback, transfer of improper procedures. So off-the-job training methods also include, you must be aware of by now, students' lectures, conference, role plays, case studies. So you have learned it. Now the last part of the session talks about that we have to evaluate the training program. Why do we need to evaluate the training program? Can you guess, students? We need to evaluate because we have put in a lot of efforts to evaluate, to impart the training. Let us see whether the students have learned it or not. So the first level of evaluation is, it is given by Kirkpatrick, a renowned scientist in the field. The reaction, that is, did trainees like the training program? Learning, did trainees learn the material? Behavior, are trainees using what are learnt back on the job? And results, are benefits greater than the cost? So what the Kirkpatrick has tried to say is that what kind of learning has been taken should be evaluated properly through their reaction and through when they work in the organization, how they perform. So this is the bibliography I have referred students for this session. You may refer to it also, and I hope you have understood various training methods and evaluation criteria. Hope to see you in next session where we discuss about the next part, that is executive development. Thank you all for listening.
Hello and welcome to this piece of literary snippet. We usually know William Shakespeare as the most revered figure in the history of English literature. But we often tend to forget that he has also been one of the most hated figures in literature. And here I'm not talking only about those boys and girls who have to memorize long sections from Macbeth or King Lear or Julius Caesar before they can go and sit for their school or college exams. But I'm also talking about people who are themselves quite famous authors. Tolstoy, for instance, considered the writings of Shakespeare to be, and I quote, crude, immoral, vulgar, and senseless. George Bernard Shaw absolutely loathed Shakespeare, as he did Homer. But perhaps no other criticism about Shakespeare is more damaging than the one which says that Shakespeare is a marvelous storyteller, provided someone has told him the story earlier. Now, this piece of criticism is particularly damaging because it is true. None of Shakespeare's plays contain any original story whatsoever. They are all written using pre-existing materials, pre-existing stories. Now, does that diminish the stature of Shakespeare as a dramatist? Well, I'll leave that for you to decide. See you in the next episode of Literary Snippets.